Welcome to the top 20 fighting game video game music as chosen by you guys. Thank you for joining. Let's do it. This is the title theme from Street Fighter 2, but shall we select our next song? USA! Our first track is going to be from Street Fighter 2. It is an iconic track. I'm using the Super Marcado's Ultimate Edition version of Ken's theme, so you're going to hear pieces from the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and arcade soundtracks all pulled out, sampled, put together, and remixed to create the very best sounding Street Fighter 2 soundtrack. How great is that? The album is free to download. Just type in Super Marcado Brothers Street Fighter. This is Ken's theme! Hadouken! Alright, it's starting to loop around. Ken's theme. You know what I really like about it? I mean, other than the absolutely amazing melody that is just so strong and so soaring, and then it's got that strung backbeat behind it. I like the way that it does that change up when it does that bam, 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 bam. Because in a fight, it's all about changing it up, trying to control the situation. You know, the speed of the fight, the tempo of the fight, the distance. And it does have a bit of a royal edge, for sure, Prince. It's where Ken kind of seems like, you know, like a bit of a pretty boy. Like he's... If Ryu and him were literally the same characters with just different colors, and Ryu's got a headband to change up his hair, Ryu always seemed like he was more stoic. He wasn't into the flashy things. He probably wouldn't have a girlfriend. That would get in the way of training. His love is fighting. Ken, a little flashier, and more of a flashy theme. To contrast, let's hear Ryu's theme. Much more serious. Really urgent. The fight means everything to Ryu. For sure, more gritty. He is ready to fight in the streets. He'll fight you in the stands. He'll fight you in the fields of France. Wherever. He'll rip open Sagat's chest with a Shoryuken. Our next selection. From one of Street Fighter's chief competitors, Tekken 3. This is the Tekken 3 arranged soundtrack. This is Paul Phoenix. Paul, the Ken of Tekken. Man, I just really, really love, like you guys are saying, that dark PS1, groovy, industrial, really interesting alternative sounds, kind of like a bit of DJ, electronica, hybrid rock. It just sounds so gooey, and it does go a lot of different places, like Chris is saying, where they could have just kept that as like a simple loop, but it really was, I guess it was mimicking the game where there's quite a bit of a variety in the characters. You've got guys that turn into demons, you've got a giant bear, you've got sort of a ghostly samurai, and then a bunch of just kind of regular people that are quite gritty. Most of the cast is kind of regular with these weird characters. Really long combos in Tekken. But, I mean, the first Tekken was impressive because it was a really good-looking three-dimensional fighting game. Whereas Virtua Fighter was 3D, but they looked like crash test dummies. It was so like hard polygons, 5 polygons per character, whereas the first Tekken, they looked much smoother. They still had that PS1, PS2 weird look about them, where they look like mannequins. The first Tekken looks kind of hideous. I think we must compare. Yeah, it's I mean, and this is also not a super flattering picture of it because TVs back then were CRT, so they smoothed some of the stuff out. Yeah, you can see where it could use that bit mapping or Durod shading, all that crap. But I mean, there's still some like pretty nice detail and on the texture of his muscles and stuff. Like it was, I still think it's pretty impressive. I just remember Law, the Bruce Lee type character, doing that move where he would walk up the guy and do a backflip and then land on him. It had so much weight to it. It was so cool. Tekken 3 was a really great game to have on the PlayStation as well, because every time you would beat the game with a character, you would get a new character. And then also there was like a sort of side-scrolling Final Fight type game mode. Great value. I love playing Tekken 3. Alright, those first couple tracks I knew, but this is going to be new territory for me. This is Granblue Fantasy Versus The Path of Duty, also known as Catalina's theme. I definitely agree with you there. It definitely has more of an importance and more of like a regalness to it, like you're fighting in a main court. And definitely very elegant, like a duel, like somebody fencing, you know, like they've, somebody who's born of royal blood and was taught by the finest fencing teachers their whole life. Theme sounds like she has a tragic yet hopeful backstory with a potentially bittersweet ending to her life. You know, Prince, I don't know if there's a way you can somehow make a living being able to describe things like that, but you have a very special talent. I like the big key changes and sort of like dramatic movements, especially in a fighting game where they do feel like they're sort of set up in different phases. You know, the beginning of the fight, everybody's got a big life bar, it's fine. And then you can all of a sudden feel like you're losing by quite a bit. Same thing in any sports or match or competitive thing. Fighting for your life. Very JRPG-ish. Very Japanese edition. Hi! Another new one for my ears and maybe yours. This is from Guilty Gear X2, Momentary Life. Ooh! It's got a very sort of American rock style with like a bluesy, fun riff, and then goes into some more power rocky stuff with the, especially when the two guitars are doing the leads. Very sort of 80s, really kind of propulsive, big chugs. I love the drums. I love when the drums really get to shine in double time, and then you have the that piece where it just sounds like it's going. Pretty cool. That's not what I expected, but it makes sense for this part here. But it makes sense for a fighting game. We're going through all the classics, baby. This is from Soulcalibur #1, the stage of history. Oh. Interesting. Is this like a stage select theme? Yeah, I was having a quick look for maybe another version that might be a little less compressed and all crushed up. But it sounds fairly nice. It does sound like you are approaching something, a big crossroads, a big bridge. This was the character select theme? Yeah, you could just see it. A row of characters, a background scrolling along, picking these great warriors from all different places around the world and of time. This was on the Dreamcast. Soulcalibur was one of the first online fighting games, from what I remember. See if we can find a better one. It's a little better. Here are the fighters for you to choose from. Better choose now. Running out of time. Gotta fight now. And we go even deeper into Japan's offerings of video games. This is from Blazblue, Cross Tag Battle, Ruby Mix, BBCTB Special. Whatever the hell that means.
take it, couldn't stand another minute. Couldn't bear another day without you in it. All of the joy that I had known for all my life was stripped away from me the minute that you died. To have you in my life was all I ever wanted, but now without you I'm my soul forever haunted. Can't help but feel that I had taken you for granted. No way in hell that I could never comprehend it. I wasn't dreaming when they told me you were gone. I was wide awake and feeling that they had to be wrong. How could you leave me when you swore that you would stay? Now I'm stuck inside of every single effing day. It's like a movie but there's not a happy ending. Every scene fades black and there's no pretending. This little fairy tale doesn't seem to end well. There's no night shining armor will wave you from the spell. I know you think planning.
Wow. Yeah, I agree with Chris. I could totally live without the early part, the first movement. And if these parts of it weren't so damn good and catchy and emotional, and the places that it went to weren't so good, I would have cut it off a long time ago. Because it does feel like we put in a medley. But I guess that's how this works. There's a whole lot of different parts to a song, probably depending on what happens in the fight. But this definitely goes to some really interesting places. Tons of crazy chord changes that you don't normally hear in a straight-ahead rock song. I like the vocals. I like drums, solo, everything that's played feels like it has a really nice purpose to it. A really, like, a nice urgency. And it just clicks. Works well. If we couldn't get any more weeaboo, enter Dragon Ball Final Bout. A well-loved anime that always struggles to make great games with its property, even though you just need to talk to somebody that knows how to make great fighting games. Let's hear what this is. This track is called The Biggest Fight. This just seems so cheesy. I'm gonna fight you, kick you in the balls. Gonna make big dragon balls. A build-up track? Yeah, this definitely sounds like I'm watching sort of like a big montage of something. Like they're showing me everything that's happened. I could be watching the hero train and the villain train in a better facility, laughing away, thinking he's going to win, or she, or non-binary. Interesting track. I think this is a nice palate cleanser after all the epic ones we've had. But I don't think I'd be racing to listen to it again unless I needed something really cheesy. Like if me and Stella were going to have a competition about who can cut the cucumber fastest. So, you thought we couldn't get any more Japanese, did you? Well, have you heard of Asuka 120%? That's right. 120% is in the title. Burning Fest, period. Megumi Suzuki's themes. Very Sonic the Hedgehog sound, very Street Fighter sound. This is the FM Towns version. This is a video that has 10 different versions of the song. Sounds great. Has a Street Fighter 2 melody and sound, but the bass is so groovy. Ultimate disco. And it really sounds like someone's playing a bass too. There's a way that you can really kind of hear the fingers. You know, the bass is really getting fingered. Fingered hard, fingered dirty. You know I like it. Let's bring it into the modern age. This is Pokkén Tournament, a Tekken game with Pokemon. But the biggest question is, how do you pronounce that word? Pokkén? Pokkén? Don't know. Wow, that is super intense. You know, I normally don't listen to that kind of music, but that feels pretty great. So epic. And you're just playing with these little Pokemon. Got a big kind of like world festival EDM. Sounds nuts. This would be cool if the stadium was in, like, if the fighting stage was a stadium with just 70,000 people. Or sort of an outdoor festival or something. And everyone's fighting to get to the bathroom. When Soulcalibur 2 came out, the Nintendo version had Link as a character. The PlayStation version, I believe, had Heihachi from Tekken. And the Xbox version had Spawn, the comic book character. This is Under the Stars of Destiny from that game. Wow. That's a great track. I don't quite understand, like Prince says, why does it have this military vibe? Why does it sound like it could be in a Metal Gear Solid game or a SOCOM or Tom Clancy? I mean, Soulcalibur to me is like, it's like kind of spiritual, man, fantastical. You know, the characters are kind of sometimes elongated and beautiful. I mean, Taki's pretty hot. And I think of that guy, Voldo. You know, they have big sort of, they kind of, some almost look like clowns. And they look like they're wearing, like, traditional ceremonial garbs. A lot of the times in Soulcalibur. So it's really weird to hear a soundtrack that sounds like something Hans Zimmer would compose for a Michael Bay movie. War is involved in the story? Ah. Well, that's where they went wrong. Putting too much story in the fighting game. A lovely cover. This is from Touhou, Hisouten, SWR, TH 10.5. But you knew that. Of course. I don't need to explain any further. Yeah. The tempo of that song is hilarious with that organ solo and the bass line. It's sounds like it was written for something slower, and then they just sped it way up. I don't know a lot about these Touhou games. Cyflin explains them each week to me. And then I forget. Here's my guess of what they are. They're fan-made games from some franchise that stopped having games. Immaterial and Missing Power. Other than the crazy fast tempo, it's a fairly traditional song. I was expecting it to be a little more out there. Touhou is mainly the bullet hell fan games. And you found a way to get one of these tracks into our fighting game. Into our fighting game week. That's what you did. You know what you did. This is from DISSIDIA Final Fantasy NT. Veiled in Black arrangement. think that second half really saved it for me. I wasn't really feeling the first bit of it. It was a bit repetitive. But I went to some nice dramatic places in the second half, which I'm a sucker for. I love the drama. By the way, did you hear what Chris said about Parappa? Well, would you look how Japanese this is? Blazblue, CentralFiction, In the Shadows, Hibiki Kohaku theme. Sounds like Primus. Going down to South Park, gonna have myself a time. Meet some friends of mine. Man, that bass is dirty! Just like pounding, slapping, dirty, grindy bass. Les Claypool would be proud. And then with this like super nerdy Japanese jazz fusion piano organ. Beautiful keys all over it. This is nuts. It really sounds like they're beating the shit out of their instruments. Just like... Fighting game. Musicians versus instruments. Musicians versus music. You can actually hear melodies from Street Fighter. They're sort of like a ba 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 da ba da ba ba, which is, I don't know whose theme that is. Ken's theme, right? I don't know. Who farted? Your fighting stinks. I'm sorry, I didn't bring a mask. I love the way my jacket smells. I love the way my neck smells. I love the way my boob sweat smells. One of my favorite fighting games, a totally ridiculous fighting game that is best played against people of the, like all fighting games, of the same skill level. Because there are crazy, insane combos. Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Play as the X-Men and different Marvel characters. Play as Street Fighter and other Capcom characters. An incredible roster. Double jumps into the sky. Building up super meters and doing incredibly, ridiculously epic finishing moves. Tagging in your partner and doing double finishing moves. This is from the Clock Tower stage. Ooh la la. Welcome! What a nice track. I don't know what you'd call that. To me, it almost sounds like casino jazz. It's got kind of like a hello, Mustafa 400. A high-end restaurant, yeah, with a great view of the moon above. Yeah. It's definitely, it's like a classy jazz. It's like, we hired those jazz musicians to play. You didn't buy tickets to see them. They're to sit there and make it seem fun and inviting. I love when it stops and it just kind of goes bum 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 bum. It would sound great with a big band. Just fun, big, not serious at all, but not like goofy and not childish. Adults having fun, spending money. Ooh, great track. And like Silent Hill, going a totally different direction. You know, it's not like it still is high energy and kind of high, like hard hitting and complex and layered and stuff. And they're still like slaying it on the instruments and stuff, but it's not, you know, it's not what you'd expect. There's no guitars, electric guitars, and it's not crazy dramatic or anything. It's just super fun because these were very goofy games. There's a friendliness to it. That's a good way to put it, yeah. Welcome to Marvel vs. Capcom. It doesn't matter that Morrigan, a vampire, is fighting Zangief, the Russian wrestler. That's true, and there's a lot of screaming from these characters, constantly shouting their moves. Side shot, side shot, side shot. Berserker barrage. Luckily, if you're still in the mood for Marvel vs. Capcom, we have another track, this time from the first Marvel vs. Capcom. This is Morrigan's theme. Yeah, I like that idea. Like you're in a casino, a little sexier, almost like you're a spy. It's definitely a little darker. Everyone's had a few drinks. There's sort of a nice glaze over everything. Yeah, this is a cutscene from Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and she's trying to seduce Ghost Rider. I know. They had such a good thing going with the amazingly hand-drawn Marvel vs. Capcom characters, and then they just look like you're watching like erotica or something. There's two of them. Weird. Ugh, I know there's like, it just feels really cheap. It looked dated when it first came out. I don't know, sprites look so good. And the thing with a fighting game is you only have to do so many drawings, right? So many movements. So, Street Fighter 3 was probably one of the last great hand-drawn ones, although I'm completely oblivious to the whole world of Blazblue and all that stuff. Guilty Gear. Street Fighter 2 in the arcades was a revolution. Breathed life back into the arcade industry, was the most popular game by far. Everybody was playing. Worked perfectly. It was, you could do one round or a couple rounds in a short amount of time. And it was perfect for two players competing against each other. Mortal Kombat entered the fray in the early 90s to compete using digitized actors and blood and over-the-top fatalities. This is the theme from Mortal Kombat 1 on the Sega Genesis. And the track is called Throne Room. The Sega Genesis version, which I was a little bit worried when it first starts, and there's like those high-pitched ones. Didn't sound good. They just not enough depth. But once the drums kick in, and they're going for this kind of trip-hoppy, slippery sort of hard-hitting, lots of kick, they played to the strengths of it and end up working out okay. So let's check out some of the other versions. So this is the Sega Genesis version. Let's hear the Super Nintendo version. Very, very different. It's just going all over the place and getting really claustrophobic. I don't know if that is the same track. It sounds completely different. You know what? That last one I might have played was wrong. This is the Super Nintendo Throne Room. Yeah, this sounds more similar. Now, I think the Sega Genesis version works a lot better because it's... First off, it strips away all of these different melodies. There's way too many melodies competing, and they're kind of all over the place. Which, if you're playing in the Throne Room and that's the final area of the game, or one of the final areas, you're fighting Shang Tsung. If they really want to make you feel oppressed and horrified, it works, but I think it's a bit too uncomfortable. And also the drums, this Genesis version realized, what are we going to be good at? Drums and bass? Okay. Highlight the kick pedal, the bass, simplify the overall melodies, and make it a lot more pleasing. And the Super Nintendo one was just trying to do way too much. Let's hear the arcade one. All the overall sounds are better, but it's still lacking the Genesis really hard-hitting kick pedal. This has got more like a low rumbling of timpani or sort of taiko drums, but buried in the mix. Yeah, definitely much better quality. But I think I like the Genesis ones overall. This is quite cohesive. Very true. Now for something totally different. This is Soulcalibur Legends, like a glint of light. Definitely a very JRPG track. Oh, airship, absolutely. It's got that militaristic snare drum, a lot of kind of sweeping wind instruments, very adventurous. Not very sort of like hard hitting. It's almost like it's building up to something. Really strange for a fighting thing. Seems like, yeah, more of like a cutscene that would play before you're going to face the final boss. I definitely get the airship, or you're watching a fleet of ships. They thought all was lost. And then the 52nd Regiment of the Red Wings came to save the day. Well, I don't know what the hell this is. Chaos Code, Eleganza, Cthylla stage. So, let's see what the composer has to say for themselves. It's definitely from the genre of play things about as fast as you can, but fun. Really, really catchy. And just people shredding. There's a lot of the sort of like... It's like they're in a rush to do most of the rhythm of it. Sort of like a boom, 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 ba, boom, boom, ba. which gives it a bolero feel. The flute and the violin together sound really nice. Gives it a classical, fabulistic type sound. Sounds historical. It sounds like someone's telling you of their history while beating you in the face. And then our people came 1,000 years ago. And then they settled in the north. Oh, really? In case you were worried you weren't going to hear another Soulcalibur track, this is from Soulcalibur 3, Ephemeral Dream. Mommy, I had an ephemeral dream. I like the rhythm of this. It's kind of a heavy, melancholy, very JRPG sounding. Again, the military vibe inside the war room, on whoever's side this is losing. Scatter and die. Yeah, it's that militaristic kind of feel, but with a slow, almost groovy rhythm, and then really sad violins. Very heavy. I love that boom, boom, ka, boom. Almost trip hoppy. So sexy. Very sad sexy. Like you're taking your clothes off and you're crying. Well, we've come to number 20 on our top 20. This next and last track to be heard in the YouTube upload of this is called Melty Blood Actress Again. Truth from Melty Blood. If you're watching the stream, we'll listen to a few more. If you're watching the YouTube upload, thank you, and it's over. If you want to join in, join our Discord. If you don't see the link in the About, leave a comment and I'll give you a link. Bye.